Hiya, and welcome back to Password, the game that teaches us that the dead Durg is dead. That's all I could think of. Anyways, let's just hop right in. Let's just let the ad play. I honestly don't know, Amethyst. My attention went to Benson sitting on the stairs looking out into the yard. He was motionless, but from what I could guess, he was awake. Morning. Afternoon. He didn't bother looking my way, instead just keeping his gaze forward. I watched him for a while, and it took me nearly a full minute to realize he was trembling. Had he been crying? Tired, maybe. I'm gonna turn up my microphone sensitivity. There we go. Tired, maybe. Have you slept at all? No. Makes sense. Dave, regarding what happened, I was tempted to cut him off, but he trailed off there instead. Once more, we found ourselves standing there in silence, and I was about to turn around to head back inside before he spoke up again. I am ill-suited to the task left for me. The comments seemed to be made more in general more than to me specifically, especially with how he kept facing forward and facing the lawn. Scanning the tree line once more, I turned around and headed inside. Someone had to have been around, and I figured I'd start with the dining room. At first, I didn't think anyone was here until I noticed someone slumped on the ground by the window. Roswell. You're awake! Where is everyone? Probably upstairs resting. Why was I left downstairs? You didn't look comfortable, but you went down to the vault for a reason, so we decided that maybe it was best to just let you sleep. Really? Well, yeah, that's why Sal went and got you the pillow and blanket. I see. Are you feeling okay? You look out of it. What do you think? He went to reply and nodded slowly, playing with his hands. Right. Sorry. Why are you on the floor? I'm keeping watch. We've been taking it in turns. When is it my turn? If you're up to it, you can be next if you want, but... I sat down on the floor next to Roswell, offering him the pillow while I clutched the blanket closer to me. Sure, I'll keep watch. Did you want coffee? No thanks. Breakfast? Not hungry. Well, alright. Roswell, can I ask you something? Of course, not that it stopped you already. His little jab made me smirk. What do you think is going to happen? Presumably that visitor Thanatos mentioned, right? Speaking of, what happened with that? How did you all... Learn he can talk? Yeah. He breathed in deep, nodding slowly. When you came rushing downstairs, it was shortly after Thanatos appeared. We'd only exchanged a few words before, well, you went rushing outside. The rest of us had only had a few seconds to listen to him explain things before we followed you. How much did he tell you? He kept the details vague, or maybe not vague, but just gave us the gist of what was about to happen, and sure enough it did. Remember, we had seconds to get out there before you would have disappeared into the woods. Where is he now? Haven't seen him today. Have you seen anyone else? I tagged out with Haas early because he was barely keeping it together. You caught me just really exhausted staying up for so long. Then how are you keeping it together? Shock, probably. Everything happened so fast, and now... Orlando and Tyson are dead. Not what I was going to say, but yes. What were you going to say? The problem as to who the culprit is, our options are limited, and none of the options are even good. If you had to guess, who would you pick? I've been trying not to guess or think. Throwing out an accusation seems wrong, or at the very least not good for the group's morale. I grunted, leaning back. Yeah, you're probably right. You haven't been thinking about it, have you? I just want to know who killed my brother, who killed my best friend. And if I'm being honest, I don't even really have much of a stake in who killed Oswin, but it had to have been someone, right? Right. Okay, my microphone is not wanting to cooperate right now. He continued first by nodding slowly before scratching his chin. I guess there's nothing much we can do without a motive, huh? Standing slowly, I shrugged off the blanket and wandered towards the kitchen. Where are you going? I just need to see him. Roswell was on my heels soon after I entered the kitchen, catching me only after I'd reached the freezer. Dave, you don't need to do this. I do, Roswell. The next thing I did was open the door and found myself shivering as the cold air hit me. As I stepped inside, Roswell lingered behind, just watching as I made my way back to where on the ground were two distinct black bags. One was misshapen and further back, enough to tell me who was in it. My attention went to the other one as I knelt down on the floor before unzipping it. There he was. Tyson. If not for the hole in his head, he just looked like he was sleeping. Although as my eyes trailed downwards, the amount of blood splattered across his front made it impossible to convince myself of that. I breathed out, my body rattled as I had it confirmed for me. Already I could feel the tears welling up, threatening to freeze on my face unless I got out of there. Barely having zipped the bag back up and getting back into the kitchen, I broke down crying again, closing the door and slumping back against it. Dave. Roswell had been lingering nearby and shuffled uneasily on the spot. What are you going to do now? I don't know. Did that help at least? He's really gone. They both are. Couldn't even bring myself to check the other bag. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, which you just reminded me. Gotta do something real quick that I should have done earlier.
Body has been discovered!
Time and place, my guy. Also, Haya. Yeah, time and place. Wiping my face, I looked to Roswell, who seemed deep in thought. Is there a common line between Orlando, Tyson, and Oswin? Something we don't know about? Why does that matter? Motive, Dave. Who would want all three of them dead? And also, why was Orlando even outside? Huh? It just seems odd to me that Orlando would go outside after knowing what's in the woods. Was he lured out there? Was he chased out here by Tyson? Could have been any of us, so why Orlando? Oh. Yeah, I don't know. Even Tyson is an odd choice if you think about it. If you say so. Say so. Should I stop? He's dead, Roswell. My brother is dead. You're talking about him, so... What I mean is that... Sorry, I'll stop. I want to know who did it, but just... I don't think I can think of anyone else outside how much this hurts. At this rate, I might even just get Thanatos to knock me out again. I wouldn't recommend it. I must have gotten too close to him whenever he did. Whatever it was he did to knock you out, knocked me out too, and gave me this horrible nightmare. He gave me another one last night, right outside the vault door. How bad was it? Not the best, just confusing. Dad was alive, Oswin was alive, but... Everyone else, and I was. You were the only one left alive. Yeah, but it can't have been real because Oswin was there, practicing medicine and everything. I wonder... What? What are the chances that what you experienced was instead a memory? That's what I've been starting to think it was. Some crazy memory of a past life, whatever Thanatos made me remember. I forgot how to speak. Roswell seemed to look around the room quickly, rushing over to the stove and sighing after checking it for something. What did you see when Thanatos knocked you out? A fire. A massive fire that consumed everyone and I was the last one alive. That happened in mine too. The fire, I mean. What he showed me didn't give me how the fire started, but I was there when it was happening. Then after that was the aftermath. I nodded slowly, trying to calm myself down to get the crying under control. Are you sure asking Thanatos for that again is a good idea, all things considered? It's just a question of if it's better than being awake, isn't it? You're brave to take that gamble, or maybe just reckless given what's going on. All I know is I don't want to be around for the next time he does that to someone. Breathing out, Roswell looked to the door. Speaking of, though, are you sure you want the next shift? I really wouldn't mind trying to get some sleep and, well... Yeah, sure. Sorry, Dave, I just don't know how to help. It's fine. Go sleep. I just need some time to process this. He didn't seem convinced, but the fact that he looked like he was falling asleep while standing seemed to convince him who to trust. I was telling the truth. Once he was gone, I stood up and rested my weight against the kitchen counter, wondering if I should try eating something, but my appetite was shot. Not that I was surprised. I forced down a glass of water and went back to the foyer, dropping myself onto the stairs to face the front door. From where I was, I could probably keep an eye on the back door as well, but I figured that here was a good enough place to keep watch. Benson came back inside at some point and wandered away, paying me little mind. Not that I was in any particular headspace to say anything to him anyway. What was I even watching out for? Danger? This variable person that Thanatos had spoken about? I scoffed at the idea, hoping that it'd actually be something to finally tip me over the edge and I could stop thinking. Yeah, it looks like Dave just doesn't care anymore. Hang on, I'm gonna hydrate real quick. I swear this isn't a vape. Because it isn't. It's a water bottle. I closed my eyes and waited. I wasn't tired, I wasn't going to fall asleep, but sitting in the dark seemed better than staring at a door. Running through my mind were memories of the past few days. How things had seemingly been improving, but now it all fallen apart. My eyes flew open when I heard it, staring at the door to make sure I hadn't imagined it. Had someone knocked? As if answering my question, they did so again, and I got up to march towards the door. The rational thing would be to not answer it, to alert the others, but in that moment, I just didn't care. I had my hand on the doorknob and opened. Ah, fuck this bitch. It's this bitch. Hi, bitch. How does it feel being a Twink's bitch? When the bitch is a bitch. On the other side of the door was a bear. I so bad just wanted to say bitch. On the other side of the door was a bear, tall and imposing. He must have assumed someone taller was going to answer the door, and as his eyes notably dropped to meet mine. You're not a Hammond. Sorry? Don't worry about it. Can I come in? He didn't bother waiting for me to say either way, instead just pushing me aside and stepping into the foyer. Okay, bitch. Okay, can you not step into the foyer? That would be greatly appreciated. Cause you're a murderer. You are a murderer. It'd be greatly appreciated if you didn't step into the foyer. And I'll be right back. Nah, he's batshit insane. He shouldn't be in the foyer because he's crazy. Can you not be in the foyer? That would be greatly appreciated. Social distancing. At minimum 6 miles. Who are you? He seemed to consider the question briefly before giving me a curt nod. Dumb. Hang on. Because I feel like some people here don't use miles. They use kilometers, so 6 miles, 2 kilometers. At minimum, 6 miles or 9.656 kilometers. Bare minimum. Just back away, you bear. You bear bitch. Ah! Dom? What? Nothing, just you were looking for someone, or... He seemed to watch me carefully, almost curious. Something like that. You've got a rat problem. I followed Dom's gaze over to the stairs where Thanatos was standing. It didn't seem to give much away from his expression, just seemingly watching how things were playing out. He's a pet. Another grunt was all that came from that before I realized something. How did you get here anyway? The road's gone. More than one way to get up a mountain, kid. You climbed? Not this time. What does that mean? Alright, that's enough of that. The rat talks. He's special. Real quick, you might want to cover your ears, Junior. What? Why? Forgetting another word out, a gunshot rang out through the house and Dom collapsed. Fell hard to the floor, the telltale hole right through the eyes indicating what had happened. The Skrunkly saved us. My ears were ringing, but I managed to make out Benson walking down the stairs as he put his gun away. He said nothing, wandering over to the large bear now sprawled out on the floor and shook his head. Dead. You did shoot him in the head. What did you do that for? Did you care to wonder who this bear was? Where he came from, perhaps? He was about to tell me about another way off the mountain. Benson's eyes were wide briefly before his expression went grim. He looked from me to Dom on the floor and hung his head without saying a word more. The others started scrambling down the stairs then, taking in the scene before them. Dean led the charge down the stairs, and the three of them stopping shy of stepping off the stairs. What happened? Everyone seemed to look down at the bear on the ground, blood starting to pool on the floor around his head. Who was that?
Where did he come from?
Where's Hoss? Upstairs. Didn't take too well to hearing a gunshot. I nodded slowly as Roswell wandered from behind Dean, past Benson towards Dom.
Does anyone recognize him?
Silence. Roswell examined the body more before standing up and shaking his head.
No wallet or anything on him either.
I managed to get a name out of him at least. That's a start. What was it? Dominic. His name is Dominic, or Dom for short, I guess. Haas appeared at the top of the stairs, peeking out from around the corner. Each step he took was cautious until he had taken up Roswell's spot behind Dean. He's dead, right? He was shot? Yeah, Benson shot him. We all looked over his way, but he seemed to have his attention elsewhere. How do you know him? He's been here before, with me. He was on set, I mean.
Well, with Dom dead, that's going to limit our options moving forward.
What do you mean?
Oi, Dean, flip him over.
Who?
The other bear, obviously.
Dean did as he was asked and flinched when Dom was on his side. Didn't even seem to worry about the blood on his hands.
Find it. Find it?
How did you know this was here?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've seen him walk in here a whole bunch of times already.
Dean pulled out something that had seemed to be tucked into Dom's waistband, standing now with a gun in his hand. Haas started to shake and back off to be behind Sal now, watching things unfold.
One more weapon that we're going to need.
Need? Against what?
You think no one's going to come looking for him?
What, this guy's with the guy in the woods?
I'll let you figure that out.
We've answered the who, but not the where. As Roswell asked, I would like to know where he came from, too. Well, the woods, right? Maybe.
What do you mean?
He mentioned that there were other ways up the mountain, you know, right before you butted in.
Can't have you damaging your ears now, can we?
If there's another way up the mountain, that would mean that some avenue can be used to get down, right?
Stands to reason, unless he jumped from a plane, most avenues that can be taken up a mountain can be used to head down.
So, there's a walking track. No way to find it without heading into the woods and searching, which, given this guy had a gun, well, it's not safe.
Right.
I don't know what's worse, knowing there's a way out, or that the way out is going to get us killed.
On that note, what were you thinking, letting him inside like that?
I don't know! He pushed his way in, probably could have bashed the door down if he wanted to. Still, you put everyone at risk doing that. I was just on autopilot. I guess there's nothing we can do about it, but what are we going to do about, Once more we all looked to Dom's body. Maybe it was the shock of watching it unfold, but somehow it didn't feel as bad as seeing someone I know die. Well, I think everyone but Dave is going to die because, you know, Dave is plot armor. Ah, fuck. They're going to commit arson. Once more, we all looked to Dom's body. Maybe it was a shock of watching it. No, we already read that. The feeling started to settle in my stomach the more I thought about it, and I turned away to cover my nose, certain that if I caught a whiff of blood, it'd be over. Well, we can't leave him here. Into the freezer, then.
Will he fit? Can we just dump him somewhere outside?
And run any number of risks exposing his body like that? The freezer isn't a great idea either, though. It's not that big to just start piling bodies in there. No one else is going to die, Haas. Didn't even believe myself as I said it, finding that my eyes were glued to the floor rather than making eye contact with anyone. The others seemed to feel the same way very much as we all hoped that'd be the case. Dean, Sal, may I get some assistance in moving the body, even just off to the side for now? Wordlessly, the three of them picked Dom up and started guiding him off to the side, blood dripping and marking the path they followed.
Hey, Haas?
Yeah?
You said that he'd been here before with you, on set. What else do you know about him?
Seemed harmless enough, didn't say much. Pretty placid unless you rubbed him the wrong way or got him excited. From one of the cameras breaking because he'd been worked up after some good news. That sounds dangerous.
He's not the most dangerous. Just has a natural bulk and strength, but beyond that, nothing.
Thanatos, when you say he's not the most dangerous, what is?
You mean who?
You don't think he's in league with the rabbit in the woods, huh?
Who else could he be with if the road is gone? Plus, if there's any talk of danger, that's just the most logical conclusion, surely.
Well, if he is, it'd be news to me. Nothing like that seemed to be the case on the set, but it's not exactly something that comes up in conversation.
You're forgetting the best part.
Oh no. Oh no? Oh crap! Huh? What's going to happen when Dom doesn't head back?
This is bad. We're still in a time where things are up in the air. Too many variables to really control.
What happened having seen this multiple times?
Stuff that happens outside the mansion I have no control over. You know what my functioning range is.
So, we're just meant to wait until the next thing happens.
Unless you plan on taking the fight to them, correct?
Which is a terrible idea. We don't know how many more are out there shy of a rabbit and probably Memphis Noble. A homicidal rabbit and a dragon. Just great. Just how bad is Memphis compared to Jack? Bad. Dean and Sal wandered in, Sal stepping forward while Benson seemed to wander away somewhere. Dean remained by the floor to the room they'd left the body in, staring at his hands for the time being. Orlando was lovely. Imagine if Orlando was taller than me, stronger than me, meaner than Tyson, as absolute worst, and did it all for fun. He sounds awful. He is awful. Compared to his son, Memphis is a person that would make anyone cower, and rightly so. If he's in the woods, the amount of danger we're in just skyrocketed.
I have an idea. Not a great one in pales in comparison to something that we know about will work.
Are you talking about firearms?
Would guns not work?
Let's just say he's boasted about being shot more than once and come away relatively unscathed.
Well, nuts.
What's your other idea?
That's...
Roswell looked at Thanatos standing quietly nearby. They made eye contact briefly before Roswell looked back to Sal.
What about poison?
I don't think poison would work. You'd have to get it into a system somehow, and even then, who knows how long it'd take.
Then...
Roswell then looked to me, back to Thanatos, and mumbled out his next words carefully.
Maybe Thanatos can do what he did to us and just knock him out.
Excuse me?
I mean, it could work, right? I don't think he could guard against something like that, but the bigger problem would be anyone else in the vicinity.
Given the very real possibility that he has a gun, I don't think you get much of a chance without being shot, Roswell.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting that I do it, but I suppose I am the best choice.
And if it doesn't work, then we not only lose Roswell, but have a pissed-off dragon with a gun, plus whoever else he's brought along. I don't think I like the prospect of, well, that, among other things. What else, then? Well, when what's just happened settles, I imagine if it's anything like last time, we're going to be too distracted by our own thoughts to do much to fight off anyone. There's a very real chance they're better equipped and used to using a gun than we are.
With the exception of Benson.
How do we know he's not in on it? He killed Tyson, chose not to get out of there sooner to save Orlando, killed Dom before he could find out the way off the mountain he knew. Take a deep breath, Dave. He let Orlando die too, Sal. How are you not angry? The moment I saw Sal cower, I felt bad, if only just a little. I felt I'd just run mentally into a brick wall. He wandered away to talk to Dean, the two of them disappearing soon after out of sight.
What are you planning on doing now?
Do we have options?
If anything, I feel like we should be preparing for something to happen, right? Go prepare, then.
Any advice? I had my eyes trained on Thanatos and couldn't shake the feelings I held right after Tyson has been shot. I still wanted to tear in him. I still blamed him for everything that was happening to us.
Oi!
There was nothing I had to say, not anymore. He wasn't even thrashing in my hands and just letting whatever was happening to him happen. Dave, what are you doing? Nothing. I watched as Thanatos relaxed in my hand, gotten over the initial shock of being grabbed. Every problem we have right now is because of you.
Dave? So what?
People are dying. Because of you. You could have chosen to save Tyson by telling me the password. You could have saved Orlando by stopping him from going outside. You could have saved Dom by warning us who it was. My grip tightened and Thanatos seemed to register it. Not that he made any comment, but I felt Roswell step forward and put a hand on my arm.
I don't think... Let him get it out.
I hate you. I hate you so much. I feel the tears already starting to well up in my eyes.
You hate me? After every other time you saved your friends, you hate me now? Could have done any of that without me.
My grip tightened further, but he didn't budge. The metal inside him was hard, and I could feel it pressing back against my hand, starting to hurt.
Hey, Master?
My eyes opened wide, and I looked around the room. Thanatos' gaze just went to the ceiling as he shook his head.
We're gonna have to try something else next time.
Oh, fuck. Something hit my ears hard and I crumpled, but not as hard as Roswell did on the ground. Caught by no one, given Haas immediately fell to a knee, clutching his head. My grip on Thanatos loosened slightly, but tight enough to still keep him pinned.
Good night, David.
Whatever hit me the first time hit me again, and it was enough to knock me out. Barely felt Thanatos leap out of my hand before I slipped away. The ground was hard and cold underneath me, the smell of blood flooding my nose. As I opened my eyes, I looked around. No one was around. Hello? I could still smell blood, but there wasn't any within eyesight. Another memory. Dom's body being dragged through the foyer should have left a trail.
You doing okay?
I just slipped, that's all.
Jeez, be more careful.
Once again, I felt not in control of my body. I would feel the corners of my mouth curl up in an embarrassing smile. Did you want to come on a walk? Figured I'd look at the view from the main road.
I'd be dead weight. Don't work that far out.
So even if I held you up to look around, you wouldn't see.
Why would you actually drop me off the side of the mountain?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why not take one of the others?
It's early. I'll let them sleep.
Sal and Haas are already up and about.
Yeah, but they're doing their own thing.
You know, you're handling this very well.
Handling what well? There was genuine confusion from the both of us, it seemed. Last time there was talk of a fire, but this seemed to be something else.
You know what? Never mind.
What's happening here?
Junior here fell down and is still intent on going for a walk.
Dave, that's not exactly the best idea. Why not? I'm fine. I just want to go look at the view from the road.
You could always go with him.
Pardon?
When was the last time you got out of the house? Might also be nice to have a doctor around in case he falls again.
Did you want to come, Oz? Please, it's Oswin. We've been over this. Okay, did you want to come, Oswin? If it's just a slow walk, then alright. If only to get my mandated exercise in. After some additional grumbling, we headed outside, Oswin closing the door behind us. Come on, you better not be too slow. We started off at an alright pace. It was clear that Oswin didn't exercise much. Not that I was much better, it seemed like. Are we there yet? I'd stopped and Oswin continued lazily strolling forward past me. Almost there. Are you tired? Yes. Would you rather stop or keep going? If we're almost there, we may as well keep going. The mountains opened up before us as we stepped out from the driveway and onto the main road. As I wandered closer to the edge to look over, Oswin lingered closer to the end of the hallway to watch. Don't fall. I'm not going to fall! The air was crisp and fresh. Once again, I felt that smile on my face. Must be great living out this way, huh? It has its perks. Such as... Well, for starters, your mother is less inclined to travel all the way out here to tell me how to do my job, given how far away it is. I shot him a look and he smirked upon seeing my reaction. In reality, I haven't rightly known anyone else. I was raised here, tutored here, and really only left to get my qualification. Ever thought about going to the beach? I've thought about it. And? I've been. Once. And? What did you think? It was fine. Come on, the beach is great! And yet you came here. The mansion was something that brought us together, tore us apart, and to choose not to go through all the ups and downs hard. Made me think what would have happened if we did go to the beach instead. Before I could think too hard on it, my eyes opened again. What the hell, man? Told you. I'm sorry. Huh, what? Back with us. What happened? You started eating marshmallows like a crazy person, and trust me, I know crazy. I didn't expect you to try and beat Rothwell's record. I was only joking. Okay, something is horribly wrong. Because Orlando and Dom are dead. I know it's another timeline, but still. Like, goddamn. They're dead. They're very dead. Then, what? I realized that I was soaking wet. Sitting beside Haas was now an empty jug. Poor guy's soaked. But it did wake him up. Hoth, though, help me. You better find him a towel. Fine, I'm going. Done. Keep him company. I was trying my best to watch the bear, despite the body I was in seemingly having other ideas. Ugh. Did he have to pour the whole thing on me? Don't ask me. I would have just done mouth to mouth. I think Dean would have gotten jealous if he did that. Don't worry, you wouldn't be the only one in trouble. What do you mean? I wanted this to stop. I didn't want to experience past memories or hallucinations or anything beyond what was happening in my actual body. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Everything that I was experiencing felt numbed, and I hated how I was starting to doubt which me was the real one. Sitting up suddenly, I looked around. First thing I looked for was Thanatos, but saw nothing. No Roswell either. In fact, no one at all. Had they just left me here, or was this another memory? Guys? Thanatos? Flexing my fingers, it seemed like it was my own body, and I took the chance to stand up. Supporting myself on the stairs, I looked across the floor to check for blood. Sure enough, drips of blood leading into a side room hinted that that's where Dom had been taken. There's no way around it, I had to be sure.
Dave?
I don't...
Dave?
Roswell? He was on the ground looking at Dom, who's covered with a blanket, or at least mostly was. It had been folded back for the time being. What are you doing?
Probably the same thing you are doing.
What do you mean?
Didn't you just...
I wandered over and sat down next to him on the floor, trying not to look at the dead bear beside us. Memories again?
Yeah, I'd only just come in here after making sure you were breathing. Haven't seen anyone else yet.
You left me in the middle of the foyer.
I wasn't sure where I was. No idea where the others are either. Or Thanatos, for that matter.
Now we're on Path G. We finished Path D already. Some friends they are to leave us both like that.
They might not have had a choice. Plus, are we sure we're both, properly back?
Roswell, you can't possibly be suggesting that this is some shared memory, is it?
It could be, right? Assuming that things might have played out this way before. We could have had this conversation before and...
He trailed off, shaking his head.
It's kind of sad to think about, isn't it? Having maybe lost Orlando once before, and this time it just... What I mean is...
I don't want to talk about this. Orlando, Tyson, Oswin, Dom, 2 people that were our friends, and the other 2 just... How many more people are left that need to die before we can get off this mountain?
I don't know. I don't think there's any way to really know.
Dom hinted at another way off the mountain. At this point, I'm tempted to try climbing down the main road unless we find that way he took to get up.
If you took the main road, I doubt I'd be able to follow. Somewhere in the woods, then we run any number of risks.
As if we're any safer here, not with Benson shooting people, anyone else could be next and it could come out of nowhere too.
You're probably right, but I don't like the options.
Is it bad that I've wondered if it's, worth getting to him before he gets to us?
You want to kill Benson?
After what he did to Tyson, what he didn't do to save Orlando?
But you, Dave, actually want to kill Benson.
I just want revenge for the 2 of them, that's all.
Dave, getting off this mountain alive is what's going to help, not, well, taking someone else's life. What would Orlando think? What would Tyson think?
Before I could answer, I could feel someone watching us from the door. Turning to see who it was, Roswell followed the direction I looked to. Dean?
What are you doing? Where are the others?
I should be asking you 2 the same question. Why'd you leave us unconscious in the middle of the foyer? What do you mean? I turned to Roswell, who looked just as confused.
You didn't know what happened in the foyer after you left with Sal?
I'm guessing you 2 fell asleep like last night. The rat did it. He made us pass out. Well, that's not good.
Why?
Last time I saw him, he was lingering around house, but house seemed kind of out of it. Where are they now? I jumped up, almost knocking Roswell over in the process. Dominic had gone forgotten, now worried about what Thanatos was up to. I saw them outside from the window of the kitchen.
In the backyard?
Tearing out of that side room, I threw open the door to the back and immediately regretted it. Must have still been reeling from waking up as I collapsed soon after. Hoss? Thanatos sauntered up to me as I was a heap just outside the door, shaking his head. He's fine. Where is he? What did you do? You know exactly what I did. Hoss is just taking a little cat nap of his own to shake that headache I gave him. But where? He's alive, if that's what you're wondering. He stepped out of the way as I made to grab him and he shook his head again. He's in the hedge maze, genius. Before you go running off, have you cooled off yet? My second attempt at trying to grab him fell short and he shook his head once more. I'll take that as a no. Fine then. When you have it, I'll come find you. I don't want to see you. You will later, Junior. Thanatos scurried back inside, skirting around me before I could block his path. Are you alright? It gave us a bit of a frat rushing out like that. I didn't have a response to them, but my mouth was curled up in a crooked grin. Tears welling up in the corners of my eyes, and the moment I started to laugh, the dam burst. It was that hyena laugh that almost sounded mad, the throaty kind of cackle bordering on a wheeze. Dave? He had his hands on my back, gently rubbing in circles. Is there something we could do? We should do?
I don't think there's anything we can do, is there? I'm barely holding it together as it is.
Sal had his hands on me next, and I was lifted from my spot on the ground and hoisted over his shoulder. Come on, Dave. We wandered inside, although Dean lingered out the back as Roswell followed sluggishly behind. Sal laid me down on my bed carefully, and the laughing finally started to die down. I could feel my face scrunched up tight in pain, instead of trying to cry more. What happened?
It's hard to explain.
This entire timeline shit is messing with everyone. Hoss. Hedge maze. While wiping my eyes, I managed to see them look at one another before Sal made to leave. I can't do this anymore. Dave.
It's alright, Sal will stay with him. Go find Hoss.
Roswell sat on the floor, leaning his back against the side table.
Dave, are you there?
I found myself starting to chuckle again. It was a weird feeling, knowing how wrong it was to be laughing, to the point that it almost felt foreign. As if I was in one of those memories, watching through the eyes of another me.
Please don't break.
My laughing died when I heard him starting to sob. Not that I said anything, remaining quiet as if I were just a husk of the hyena I'd been days before.
We need to keep it together. If we can't, then...
He'd left it there, and sure enough, once the silence had hit, I'd passed out from exhaustion. Nicer than being forcibly put under by a rat, for sure. But I was worried at any moment I'd open my eyes and be in another place I shouldn't be. I wasn't hungry, I wasn't thirsty, I felt weak but not tired. Exhausted, sure, but I didn't want to sleep. My body seemed to have other ideas, though. My head hurt, my chest hurt, there was a sensation running up my arms as I lay in bed I couldn't quite describe, but it wasn't pleasant. In a daze I thought about my friends. Not a dream as much as swimming in my thoughts. Nothing tangible as far as something to see, but just this feeling of longing for something I seemed unable to have. I wanted their safety, and the moment it dawned on me that it was what I wanted most, above even my own. When I opened my eyes, it was dark. Roswell was gone and the house was once again quiet. My head didn't hurt as much, instead replaced with a feeling of numbness. Or maybe not numbness, but a feeling that I'd gotten used to it. Didn't even bother checking how late it was, just that it was dark, that I was tired, and I wandered around looking for anyone. Heading towards the kitchen, I passed by the window that lined one of the walls to look out into the backyard. Finally awake, huh? Turning slowly, I spotted Thanatos on the table, watching me carefully. He said nothing else now that I'd known he was there and waited for me to break the silence. Thanatos. You come looking for me? Yeah. Find that hard to believe. Listen, I need to ask you something. Not going to try and pull my head off this time? No, I need... I heard you. You want to ask me something. Told you that next time you saw me, you'd be happy to see me. I went quiet, looking back out the window. I shouldn't need to tell you that I knew this would happen. Again, I didn't reply, opting instead to continue looking out the window. Go on, ask. I haven't got all night. You're not going to tell me who your master is. You're not going to help us unless it helps you. Neither of those are questions. What do I have to do to help?
here's the question. Less of this worrying about keeping everyone safe and alive stuff, and more about getting my job done.
Well?
Survive.
How?
Way I see it, you have two options.
Decide for me.
I can't. That's not how this works.
Because?
Every time you make a decision, you could create a potential branch. When I can have a look down and see if that helps get me getting closer to my end goal. If I chose all the time, I'd just end up stuck.
Okay. I didn't get it. I also didn't care.
So, your choice. You can stay here and see what happens, or you can run away and keep yourself alive.
And the others?
Offer doesn't extend to them. You're the one we're talking about now. Take it or leave it.
You're saying I have to choose between escaping with my life or staying and potentially dying.
Not saying that at all, just reminding you of your options. I don't know if you're safer here or out there, but it's up to you.
But the others...
Look, here's the deal. I have been down this path already, and it doesn't end great most of the times. Oswin's dead, so I'm out of luck for the most part. The more people you try taking with you, the harder it's going to be.
I gave him the side eye as tired as I was, but he seemed to not notice.
If you leave and end up dead, then I wouldn't know about it. That goes for anyone you take with you. Good luck convincing them to escape with you, though.
If I ask nicely, they'll go.
They're scared, Junior. Good luck getting them to move this time of night.
Even after Benson killed Dom, even knowing that whoever he was here might come looking.
I'm just telling you how things are. If you don't believe me, that's on you. But you came seeking me out tonight, whether you're aware of it or not.
So that's it. It just comes down to staying or leaving.
Yep, stay or leave. Do whatever it is that keeps you alive, but there's nothing I'll offer you as far as passwords from this point on.
He stared at me and I stared back. When he didn't add anything else, I realized he was waiting for me to make my choice. You want me to choose now?
Good a time as any.
But...
No, decide. The sooner you do, the sooner I can put my processing power into finding a way out of this mess.
He shook his head and it was enough to make me stop. It was decision time. On one hand, I could leave now, use the dark of night as a cover to head towards the main road. It was risky, but it was safer than sticking around here. But leaving would mean that I left now, without my friends, at least based on what Thanatos was getting at. No passwords. There was no reply. Instead, he straightened slightly and continued to stare. Shit! Just shit. So, we're just killing everyone. We're gonna save there, and we're gonna leave. As I spoke, a tightness released itself from my chest. I breathed a sigh of relief, and Thanatos just nodded slowly.
You're sure?
Yeah, I'll go.
Get going, then.
In a trance, I just started walking. I left the dining room and headed out the front door. Didn't bother checking if I had my phone. Each step I took forward reminded me of just how tired I was. What was I going to do when I got to the main road? Would I be able to climb? Would I just fall? It didn't bother me as much as it should have. I just kept walking in the dark, feeling the roughness of the driveway underneath my feet. It hurt, but even still I couldn't bring myself to react to it. I was whining internally, mouth parted slightly as I breathed ragged breaths. Home. I was headed home. I stepped out into the open, the trees parting and the world opening up for me once again. It was the road. The air was cold. Underneath my fur I could feel it nipping at me. With the moon peeking out from behind the clouds, the valley was lit up as I wandered towards the place where the road was no more. But I wasn't alone. I stopped in the middle of the road once I'd realized it, staring at the figure looking into the gap left by the explosion. My blood ran cold, a new kind of cold that made the night air a warm blanket by comparison. Turned slowly to look at me. Something seemed off from last time we'd met. I could tell something was wrong. But that didn't last long. Once he registered who he was looking at, that smile made its way on his face. The smile that set alarm bells ringing in my head.
Ah, it's you!
The way he approached me was almost too casual. He was relaxed, much like the first time we'd met.
How good to see you again! Dave, was it?
Trembling as he reached out and put an arm around my shoulder, I let out a sound from my mouth somewhere between a whispered scream and a whine.
Listen, I'm looking for a buddy of mine. Think you might have seen him?
Of course Dom knew Jack. Of course they were looking for him when he didn't head back their way.
Big guy, bear, didn't smell that much, didn't say that much either. Sound familiar? See, the thing is, after chasing you all the way to that house, my buddy Dom figured he'd do the next run, see if he can get you all to clear out before you get in the way. Especially hearing a gun going off late at night. But shucks, he never came back from his little walk. Have any idea why?
I could see him hovering over the knife he kept with him. He hadn't drawn it yet, so maybe I could still get away. But it wasn't too late to... Maybe it wasn't too late to run.
I hate to go assuming the worst in people, you know. 'Cause I don't think there are many who can do worse than me.
In a flash, he'd gotten his knife out, all while I was still wondering if I could get away. Quickly, he'd sunk it into my side, just leaving it there. My body screamed in pain, but Jack's hand over my mouth kept it for the most part internal. As much as I wanted to cry out into the night to call for help, no one was coming this time. There would be no last-minute rescue, no chance of escape this time.
Here's how I imagine it went down. Dom wanders up, knocks on the door, all peaceful like he gets inside. Always tried to be polite, didn't he?
He twisted the knife, clamping down harder on my muzzle. I began to cry and felt the strength start to leave my legs.
But then that butler got in the way and shot him. Typical.
Jack shook his head as he guided us closer to the gap in the road, step after painful step.
Damned shame, too. I liked that bear.
We stopped just shy of the edge and I looked down. While the moon had been out, I still couldn't see the bottom. Maybe I saw the trees down below looked like rolling waves or inky black clouds, but it seemed like a bottomless fall.
I think I might go take a visit myself. Maybe bring the boss along now that the voice of reason has been dealt with. Probably have you to thank for that, huh?
As he let go of my muzzle, I breathed in deep and groaned with pain from how my body reacted. In a flash, Jack had spun me around to face him, though.
Oh, before I forget, I have one tiny thing to ask you before I get going.
He wasn't gentle when he pulled the knife out. His shock that hit my system drowned out the immediate pain I felt, so it could hit me all at once to the point I could no longer scream. I felt flashes of hot and cold as it started to bleed out there on the road.
Say hi to Dom for me!
He lazily pushed me off the road. As I fell, I saw him turn away and start to walk, but after that it was just black. Maybe I passed out soon after having the ground taken from underneath me. But I would not wake up again. Bad End Dominic. Shit! You all already know what time it is. You gotta stay. There was a tightness in my chest as I looked at Thanatos, with a single word leaving my mouth.
All right.
I can't leave my friends behind. It was... I don't know.
Hardly surprising.
Am I going to die?
Probably.
Thanatos?
What do you want?
I'm scared.
What do you expect me to do about it? Knock you out again?
No, I don't think that'd help.
Then what?
Can you tell me if all of this is worth it?
What do you mean?
You've seen this happen, had all of these talks, know what's going to happen before I had even thought of it. Is watching all of this suffering happen worth it?
This isn't a question for a machine.
I guess not. Sorry. I turned to leave, but I hesitated before getting too far.
What?
If you had feelings and understood what we're going through, and I just wondered if you'd be more willing to help, that's all.
You have no idea.
I left it at that and headed back to my room. Even after having just woken up, I was still exhausted. Something I was happy for, if only because it meant I didn't have to worry about thinking. I decided to stay. A decision that seemed to sit the best with me, given I'd already lost some friends already, and didn't like the idea of abandoning the rest. But as much as I decided to stay, a big part of me wanted to leave. To put this all behind me and escape. What would Dad do? What would Tyson and Orlando want me to do? I didn't have to wonder it for too long as I found myself drifting off. If a little worried about what was next to come. On Path G, day 22. It'd taken me some time to get settled, longer than I wanted it to. When I was finally down, it took me a while to realize it. Not that I felt like I was falling or even floating, that I was just there. Hang on, I'm gonna check something real quick. Only 8 more days? Fuck! Checking something. Let me check something. So we're on Path G. Hang on. Sort by name. What I'm doing is shady as hell, but I just have to know. Yeah, according to the files, this is the last day in Path G. Look, I did not agree to that. Ah, shit. Not that I felt like I was falling or even floating, that I was just there. I slowly opened my eyes and I was laying on the sofa at home. My body felt like lead, but I sat up anyway. Hello? Silence. Nothing came in reply to my question, even as I craned my neck to look into the dining room. Instead of the kitchen and dining room table, the doorway just seemed to lead to more darkness. Pulling myself to my feet was a struggle, and the moment I stood, I was falling. I could feel the wind rushing past me. I could feel the cold. I could feel my stomach sinking faster than what I perceived myself to be falling. No. According to the game files, because, you know, I go through game files sometimes, it never goes past 25. It never goes past 25. And Path G apparently ends on day 22. So I'm not questioning it. Pulling myself to my feet was a struggle, and the moment I stood, I was falling. I could feel the cold. I could feel my stomach sinking faster than what I perceived myself to be falling. Yeah, I already read that. Almost painfully, I found myself on my stomach, the strength of my limbs sapped.
Oh, Dave! You made it!
Huh?
You don't remember how you got here, did you?
Did I get... My head was hurting and my heart racing. If it wasn't for the fact everything around me started to blur, I would have thought I'd somehow found myself in a living nightmare.
So tell me about Dom. What happened to him, I wonder?
He's... The word caught in my mouth, but this dream jack seemed to know where I was going with it.
Dead? Well, that's a shame. 'Cause you know, when my body doesn't come back, there's going to be questions.
He approached slowly, that smile starting to make its way on his face.
And with questions, come answers. So, how many questions do you think you can answer for me, Dave?
I shut my eyes tight and tried to will the nightmare away. Surprisingly, it seemed to work. Not for long, though, I could feel the ground beneath me start to shift.
Dave!
Let me just...
Dave!
Thanatos?
Wake up!
Where are you? I blinked and he was there, seemingly materializing out of thin air.
I said wake up!
But why?
Wake up!
But
I said...
The moment I opened my eyes, I sat bolt upright. My heart was pounding in my chest. From what little light was coming in from the window, I could tell it was early. As I breathed in, I could feel it rattle up in my throat and out my mouth. Then, on the way back down, it felt like I couldn't get enough air. The next few minutes, I tried to catch my breath and ended up just feeling sick. Though I was awake and able to breathe, even with the self-induced nausea. I went for my phone, rubbing my eyes. My flinch reaction was to message Tyson for him to get coffee, but my fingers froze just above the screen. My whole body trembled as I realized I couldn't. Same applied for Orlando, and the sound that came out of my mouth was somewhere between a squeak and a whine. It took me a while to get going, crawling over to the bathroom and having a shower. The steam helped warm me up and regulate my breathing, but deep down I felt cold. I was shaken, worried that what I dreamed was just a premonition of what was going to happen. No one else seemed ready to be up. No one else seemed to be up.
Body has been discovered!
It was no wonder. Part of me considered checking in with the others, but I found myself drawn to the front door. I sat down on the stairs and stared at it, waiting, watching, and wondering if anyone was going to come knocking like Dom did. A smear of blood across the floor was still there, leading off down a hallway and out of sight. Dave? Sal's voice was quiet, almost whispered, but it made me jump all the same. I looked over my shoulder and watched as he came down the stairs to sit beside me. Couldn't sleep. Not really. I get the impression the only one sleeping soundly is Dean. Because... sleeping medication. I caught him taking more than what I expected him to as far as tablets. He's taking a stronger dose. Oh god, is Dean going to die from a drug overdose? Oh, that's actually a little easier. I checked in on him this morning and he's breathing, so at the very least, what stupid decision he made hasn't had any consequences yet. At least he's getting sleep. I'm torn between wanting to sleep versus just staying awake to avoid nightmares. Or are they worse because of yesterday? Yeah. I keep thinking about what's going to happen with Dom dead. I keep wondering if someone's going to come looking for him, so I gestured to the door before burying my face in my hands. So you're waiting for that person. I don't know if I want someone to arrive or not. On one hand, if I'm expecting it, it's better than being caught off guard, but someone doesn't. You're left wondering if anyone's going to arrive at all. That's messed up. Haas arrived. Haas quietly sat down next to me, three of us looking at the front door. You two can't sleep either? We nodded, and Haas continued. Guess Dean's the only one, then. Well... You've seen Roswell and Benson this morning? Just Roswell checked in, and he was staring at the ceiling. He was awake, but with everything going on, he's not looking too great. For a few moments, I almost thought, well, and Benson? No clue. Thanatos? Same, haven't seen either of them yet. Guessing you haven't either if you're both asking. That's right, Dave was here when I finished checking on Dean and just sat down. Ah. What are we meant to do, make breakfast, sit and wait? No, thank you. I don't feel like eating right now. Same, water maybe, but later. Yeah, I feel like if I were to eat anything now, I just, made a show of hugging my middle, dropping my eyes to the floor. I hate this feeling. I feel so trapped. Haas placed his hand on my shoulder and I flinched. Is there really nothing we can do except for wait? Beyond arming ourselves potentially, I wouldn't think so. Which, given our options, doesn't leave us with much. Right, unless we could convince Benson to hand over some guns or something, but... Haas tensed up next to me, shuddering. Yeah, if we see him around, we can ask, sure. I looked at Sally, seemed to pick up on how the conversation had turned, dipping his head down. Maybe we should have some tea, or coffee, or just... He sighed, shaking his head. I'll go get that started. I'll be back in a bit. Sal is such a gentle giant, and I'm going to keep hydrating. And just like that, I'm out of hydration. I'll be back in a bit. Haas and I watched him disappear into the dining room and then presumably into the kitchen, leaving us on the stairs. Haas then buried his face in his hands, breathing out and looking about as well as I had felt. Hello. We both turned to look at Roswell, who joined us on the stairs. What?
Are you?
You haven't missed anything, and we're just waiting.
For...
Tea, I guess.
But you're on the stairs.
It's just where we ended up. Sal went to the kitchen, so...
What about Dean?
Sleeping still, apparently.
And,
The hurried scrambling of feet on the tile alerted us to Thanatos' arrival before he spoke. He looked to each of us in turn.
What are you waiting for?
Tea.
Sal's making it.
Thanatos turned to me, giving me that beady stare of his.
And what are you waiting for, Dave?
I didn't answer, choosing to actively ignore him.
Oi! I'm talking to you!
Hey, Haas, I think I'm going to give Sal a hand in the kitchen. Stood up slowly and made to leave, getting a few steps before Thanatos spoke again.
That's a shame.
It's enough to get me to stop, but not enough to turn around to look at him.
Figured you wouldn't leave me alone with Haas again after yesterday.
Roswell is here, too.
Yeah, a lot of good that did, huh?
What do you want, Thanatos?
For you to answer the question. What are you waiting for?
I don't know what I'm waiting for.
Aren't we meant to be waiting for something? Nothing good. It's all just a matter of time.
What?
How much time? That depends on Junior here.
It's up to me?
Dave?
How does it depend on me?
You hear that? I think I can hear the hopping of a rabbit drawing near.
My blood ran cold. and I mouthed Jack's name as I felt my chest tighten.
I gave you the choice last night. You chose to stay. And now you have to live with that decision. So that's it. We're just doomed?
No, I don't believe it. Alright, we're gonna wait for this ad to play. Just gotta stretch. Take this time, I try to crack my back again. Oh, nope. Because my back will die. Probably. I don't know. Maybe. It's family time to die. It's finally time to die. I don't believe it.
So what's it going to be, Dave? Stay or leave?
I looked from Thanatos to the other two, mortified. Was he really offering me the chance to leave again, even after I'd chosen to stay? Dave?
If Thanatos can hear Jack coming, can we buy ourselves some time? Is there anything we can do?
But Dean's still still. If we left, that means...
1 hour. Jack will arrive in 1 hour.
That's not a lot of time.
Your only saving grace is that he's been up all night. So chances are he's going to be sluggish. If we stay, can we hide? It's an option.
We can hide in the secret passages. They will know to look for the library.
Assuming Dom didn't tell anyone that it existed.
Then we lock ourselves in a room and stay quiet.
Which is a problem if they come looking for who killed Dom, more so once they find his body.
Roswell pointed to the blood smear on the ground and I nodded slowly. And finding it would be easy the moment you walked in the door. There has to be somewhere. I looked at Thanatos, wondering what options were available to us. The pool, the greenhouse?
The hedge maze.
Would that work?
If we're inside the house, we'll get found. We must be trapping ourselves in case anything were to happen.
But couldn't they just find us outside?
What are the odds of Jack looking around the house to find Dom? And upon finding his body, try and look for us in the hedge maze?
I suppose it's as good a plan as any. But we still have Dean to worry about. If he's not awake in the next hour, then... If it's a choice between leaving him behind or dragging his ass out of bed, I'll gladly get Sal on board.
I don't think you need to do much convincing. The bigger problem is going to be Benson, really.
Why Benson?
You haven't noticed? He's been slowly withdrawing into himself more and more, and after killing Dom, it's only gotten worse.
I found my face scrunching up on its own. Serves him right after killing Tyson, letting Orlando be killed. It mustn't have been easy losing Oswin as well. Because, well, they were in the same house, right? Be like losing a family member.
Not to mention how he died too, right under his nose with little options on how to deal with any sort of suspect.
That's not what he told me.
Huh? What do you mean?
He said that he'd neutralized Oswin's killer, but they're still alive. Seriously? We have to worry about that too?
Not necessarily.
Please don't.
Right, yeah.
Immediately after, Roswell started into a coughing fit, clutching his chest. Hey, are you okay?
I'm fine.
You don't sound fine. It's just a cold, or... Haas and I looked at each other, grim.
It's hard to say. It might be that. It might be something else.
If Roswell's only going to get worse, maybe hiding outside isn't such a great idea. He has another coughing fit while we're outside and someone hears.
I agree. So, if I need to stay, I'll stay inside.
Jack will kill you if he finds you.
You don't know that.
I gave him a look, briefly frowning towards Haas for him to say something, given I was at a loss. I was resorting just to my facial expressions. If he sees Dom's body and goes nuts, you think he's just going to ignore you if you get discovered?
I can hide. Somewhere.
The library, maybe, assuming Jack does that thorough of a search, but if Dom told Jack about it... Haas huffed out. We're wasting time. Need to get the others in on what's happening.
Thanatos, you've been pretty quiet this whole time. What about it? You have anything to add? Anything to say or do or help? Yeah. Let me think. You're not going to like it, but today doesn't go so well most times.
Meaning?
You know what I mean. It's just a matter of choosing who. When and where. To confirm, you're asking where you need to be and when to be the one sacrificed. It has to be someone. It should be me. It's just in denying that given my health, I'm the biggest liability to the group.
Roswell, that's messed up.
It's not messed up. It's just the truth. The cold, hard truth. That if we're looking to maximize the amount of lives saved from this point out, me dying in place of someone else makes sense given I don't have much time left as it is.
He shook his head, looking to me briefly.
Dave, you understand, right? You do the same in my shoes after all.
I was a little taken aback by the question, but awkwardly stood there scratching my arm instead of answering the question. So, what do I need to do?
Alright, fine, better talk about this now rather than waiting until the bear is up when the crocodile returns.
Really? We're just gonna let this happen.
You want to know what happens if you stay behind, Haas?
Huh?
Sure, it has happened a couple of times. I've had front row seats to every time this has gone down. Yours is messiest by far.
Haas stared dumbfounded and started to shake. Thanatos continued on as if he hadn't noticed.
Chases you down real easy too, lets you run for a while, but eventually drags you right back to the foyer and guts you.
I do not like seeing the crying faces. I do not like seeing the crying faces. I do not like seeing them. They make me so sad. Like the crying. For each of the characters, whenever they start crying, it hurts me. This fucking hurts. The temptation to just crawl into bed and cry myself to sleep is there, but I'm not going to. Thanatos shook his head, shrugging. Haas, in the meantime, had buried his face in his hands and started to cover his ears to block Thanatos out.
Real messy. Doesn't care that he ends up with half of you on him and walks out covered in blood.
Thanatos, you should stop.
That's an understatement.
You think it gets any cleaner for Dean, maybe Sal? Can tell you that Jack is a nasty piece of work when he's on a rampage.
Ross wanted to say something and covered his mouth, looking to me startled.
I'll answer your question. Dean ends up a rug, and I think Sal would make a nice pair of shoes if Jack was a bit cleaner with his knife work. Leaves them both for dead, though. You and Dave, though.
No, that's all right. I don't want to know.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
I hurried over to Haas and hugged him, finding himself trembling as he reached out to clutch me tight. I felt sick, and I was sure the others felt the same.
Either way, I'm going to be heading off. Got things I need to do before Jack arrives.
Like what?
You don't need to worry about that.
Thanatos,
What now?
are you actually going to do something to help?
What do you take me for?
He shrugged and disappeared soon after, just as Sal wandered back in from the dining room. What happened?
You're going to need to help us wake Dean up.
Did something happen? Wait, of course something did. Haas is crying. What did I miss? Jack, he's going to be showing up in under an hour. But that's so soon.
Made worse by the fact if Dean's really unconscious, we're going to need to move him.
Right, I'll go wake him or drag him out of bed forcibly, but what's the plan? Hiding in the hedge maze, apparently. It was then that Roswell had his second coughing fit, desperately trying to catch his breath. But hiding is going to be hard, we know.
If I need to be left behind, I understand.
Okay, well, in the meantime I have tea, but, He gestured towards the dining room briefly before looking up the stairs. I'm going to go retrieve Dean. If we're going to be outside, better drink that tea fast, I suppose. This is actually starting to hurt my heart. This is actually starting to hurt my heart. I am going to try to make myself feel a little better. This is mostly for me. I'm just going to pull up the Yin squad. No, that's hurting me even worse. That's even worse. Why did I think that was a bad idea? Why did I think that was a good idea? That hurts worse. And I can't close my eyes and block it out. When Sal hurried along up the stairs where I'd ended up with Haas, disappearing around the corner. I don't know. I thought it'd help. I thought it would help. Why are we saying that Roswell has cancer in his penis? Why are we saying that? What the hell? That's fucked up. That is actually very fucked up. Disappearing around the corner.
Dave, Haas, do you still want tea?
Haas quickly nodded, trying to calm himself while I just let my gaze dropped to the floor.
I'll be back.
I'm okay. Are you sure? Look, I don't like the idea that we're in this much danger, alright? Brad has to be lying. For the time being, that's all I've got. Just trying to trick myself into thinking he's lying. Was he, though? He's a robot, I can't be sure. Well, all we can hope for is that we hide in the hedge maze and Jack just comes and goes, right? Sal's getting Dean and Russell's coughing. What about Benson? I don't know. What choice do we have? We headed outside after Roswell had brought us tea. I didn't drink much of mine, and even after wanting it, Haas barely drank any. The fresh air would have been nice if it wasn't for why we were out here to begin with. Sal had propped Dean by the door, having lugged him out of bed while still unconscious. Looked as though at the very least he'd not left Dean in his underwear and managed to put some pants on him. Okay, so we're just going to hide, right? There were murmurs from the others, but we all seemed resolved to head to the maze. Not that we had anything as far as weapons to use in case the worst happens, but the goal was to be hiding anyway. With Dean unconscious, Sal had one of his arms around Dean's shoulders to keep him upright. Maybe it was because of his bulk, it just made him easier to carry that way. Roswell was looking rough and followed behind, but continued on past us in a daze when I paused to ask just how far in we were headed. It seemed he'd already decided for us. Sal dropped Dean off at the bench at the center of the maze, sitting down on the ground and looking frazzled. Haas and Roswell chose spots of their own, one in the corner and the other by the fountain, just quietly rocking back and forth. Left me looking at each of them in turn, wondering what I should be doing. But all there was left to do was wait. Sal shifted to be next to Dean, eyes closed and seemingly listening out. The other two didn't move shy of any slight noise, making the rest of us jump. Every now and again, something would make one of us jump, but the moment we heard aggressively knocking coming from somewhere nearby, we all jumped out of our fur. Roswell went to speak, but Sal shot him a glare that kept him quiet. You have to tell him that it was a bad idea to make a sound. The knocking echoed out over the walls of the maze, but this time was accompanied with a crash a short while later. No yelling, no gunshots, nothing but silence afterwards. None of us dared to move, wondering where Jack might be, what was happening with Benson. A few minutes later, another crash, something shattering within the house. Then more waiting, minute after minute with no more sound. How long was it going to take before we could go inside? I had my eyes trained on the entrance to the fountain area we were holed up in case Thanatos came to visit. At the very least, that he'd be able to work this far out. I clapped my hands over my mouth soon after, though, Haas jumping to his feet with his fur on end, just as Dean started to wake up. It was a gunshot, followed by another, and then the sound of something else breaking. Another gunshot, then the sound of what I guessed was a window shattering nearly all at once. The silence that followed was different somehow, heavier, more intense, and I was more scared to make a sound after it than any other point in our wait. What's happening? Sal, in a flash, had his hand across Dean's mouth, urging him to stay quiet just from how his eyes were bulging in panic. Thankfully, he seemed to get the message. Haas started to pace and settled on coming closer to the bench to whisper something into Dean's ear while Sal still had him muffled. My attention went to Roswell, who seemed to be half asleep or zoned out and breathing seemingly labored. It wasn't a coughing fit, but he didn't look okay.
What are you waiting for?
We all jumped when Thanatos spoke, making no effort to be quiet. Is it safe? How did you get out here? Shouldn't we be... My hands went to my mouth again when I realized that I had spoken, whining out pitifully.
Oh yeah, all the fun is over.
It was enough to make a couple of us relax, but it was far from being back to normal. I missed everything. What happened?
You always miss it when we get to this point. At least, ever since we decided to let you medicate yourself. Keeps things cleaner that way.
But what happened?
You'll see when you go back inside. Speaking of, can I get carried back? Walking all the way there is going to take forever otherwise.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Haas seemed to have moved on to check on Roswell, and I figured I'd do the same.
That wasn't a lot of noise. So little noise.
What are you talking about? We heard gunshots, we heard stuff breaking.
It's not enough. It doesn't tell us anything about what could or could not have happened. All we know for certain is to go back to the house.
He eased himself up from where he was stilling, but it was clear that he was struggling to keep his balance. But without missing a beat, Haas supported him much in the same way Haas had done Dean on our way in.
So, let's go. Let's find out what really happened. What happened?
The walk back was tense. Even with Thanatos riding along on Dean's shoulder, I was thankfully that he wasn't riding along with me, given how heavy I felt already. Thanatos had come to retrieve us, and I just had to hope that he didn't just lead us right into a trap. The moment we entered the house, each of us froze. The smell was intense, even without us knowing where it was coming from. Each of us seemed to know what it was. Guys?
I can smell it too.
But that smell? Blood, which can only mean...
Benson?
Not Jack. Benson, where are you? Dean rushed off, calling out for Benson. He moved sluggishly at first, but having only just recently woke up, it was no surprise.
Is Benson dead?
We don't know that. The only thing we can maybe be sure of is that Jack is gone, right?
Oh yeah, he's gone. Headed back into the woods.
Well, that's something. What now, though? Hurried footfalls came echoing back through the house before Dean came to a stop back in the foyer. His look said everything, staring at Sal before slowly showing him the smears of blood on his hands. They ran off and I turned to Thanatos. Benson?
Is dead, yes.
You left him to die?
Oh jeez. I'm sorry for choosing the route that ends up with the least amount of you dead.
You could have joined us in the hedge maze.
It wasn't going to happen. Not that it ending up in a bloodbath.
He'd come find us?
You find him, he waits for you in the mansion until you come back, and well, Dave here is who sizes up after Benson's dealt with.
Oh.
Yeah, oh.
So if what Thanatos says is true, Benson's dead, and then on top of that, Jack and Memphis are still out there.
This sucks. They could be back at any moment.
You don't need to worry about that. They're not coming back.
What?
They're not? Why?
Well, not right away anyway. They're still at the vault after all.
How much time do we have?
You have time. What are we wanting to do this time around?
Tell me I have enough time for some sleep and for us to make some sort of escape, I'll take it.
That's all you want?
You mean via the main road, or?
It's the only way out we've got.
Think everyone is going to make it out?
We have to try, right?
You're right. Given everything that's happened, we can't afford to wonder if there's a better way out and just take the one we know.
You can't mean now, though, right?
Like I said, you have time. I don't think Sal or Dean are in a position to go climbing a mountain now of all times anyway.
Right.
Here, Roswell taking another deep breath, ragged, and it looked like it hurt. Maybe we leave tomorrow, use today to just rest up?
Can we afford to wait that long?
You're looking at needing to wait for Dean and Sal anyway.
Thanatos, when is the soonest we can leave? He looked me over carefully, looking briefly at Haas and Roswell before turning back to me.
Early tomorrow. Just make sure Dean doesn't have a medication and you'll be able to leave.
That seems easy enough, especially if we can get Sal on board.
What about me? Do I need medication or anything to be able to leave the mountain as well?
No, you'll be fine, I think.
You think?
You need sleep more than anyone else. Get some of that and you'll be fine.
Oh, okay, sure.
For now, I have somewhere I need to be.
Where?
If you must know, I need to go run a check on things in the lab. I'd offer for you to come, but there's currently a corpse in it.
So we just wait.
Yes, wait. I'll be around later in case you had any questions for me.
He scurried off soon after towards the basement, leaving the three of us to linger by the back door as we'd been. Tomorrow? Huh. Sleep, though. He says it like it's going to be easy. 4 people dead in the house, well, I guess 5 now. Feels so wrong there's just as many dead here as there are alive.
I don't think it's healthy to think of things like that, but I agree. But if tomorrow's the day, then that's great news, right?
Yeah.
You don't sound convinced.
Just going home is all well and good, but what about Tyson? What about Orlando?
Well, we can't, you know.
He'll come back for them, don't worry. We'll contact the police, pick them up, and give them a proper burial, and just put all this behind us. Okay. I've confirmed it. Sorry it took so long. So he's really... Yeah, there wasn't a point in trying to attempt resuscitation. What time it took was to just get over the shock of what we saw. It was that bad? It was that bad. Dean's still pulling himself together.
Sal, are you able to ensure that Dean doesn't take any medication again?
I suppose that's doable, but may I ask why? Thanatos says we can leave early tomorrow if he doesn't. That's great news! Then yes, I'll ensure he doesn't. Okay, that's good. Did he say anything else we should be doing now? Not really, just prepare to leave for tomorrow. I suppose I'll relay that to Dean as well, given he's still at a bit of a loss as to what happened. I peeled away from the group and made my way upstairs. If we were leaving, I wanted to make sure I had anything important that would be best to take. This included taking Tyson's phone from his room along with some other bits and pieces. Admittedly for selfish reasons, but beyond the necessities, I just wanted something to remember him by. When I got to Orlando's room, something was amiss. I hadn't been in here since everything had happened, but it seemed like someone else had been. Wandered over to the bed and cautiously reached out for a folded piece of paper left on it. As I opened it, I was greeted to messy handwriting as if it were done in a hurry. I know what you did. Was this something Jack left behind? What could it mean? Either way, I continued by picking up Orlando's phone, a few trinkets, and one of his favorite shirts. A few things had been shifted, but as far as I could tell, nothing seemed to be immediately missing. Maybe someone was just in here looking around. Maybe something else. But it wasn't as if Orlando were around for me to ask. I slumped against his bed, sitting on the floor. They were gone. It was one thing to grieve about Orlando and Tyson right after they'd been killed, but it was hitting me again and hard. For the next couple of hours, I sat there sobbing off and on. Part of me wanted to stay and be around the things that reminded me of Orlando and Tyson. Another part wanted to be anywhere but his room, but the constant reminder of them existing was something I feared I'd lose if I got up. Wandered back to my room eventually and dropped off what items I'd chosen, laying them out on my bed. It felt wrong to sum up Tyson and Orlando with just a few things, but given how we were going to escape, I'd think light. We'd come back for their bodies, like Haas said, then it'd be fine. It'd all be fine. I'd stashed the items in my bag for now, and I figured I'd load up my pockets before we made the trek down the mountain. That way I could keep them out of sight and maybe get some sleep without the constant reminder. Guys. Dean was sitting off to the side, seemingly freshly showered. His fur slightly damp from where I was sitting. Dean? Oh, hey. Are you alright? I had someone explain what happened and I didn't get it. Let it sit for a bit before getting it explained again, and I'm just so confused. You're confused? Not scared or angry? Or scared, maybe. Angry? I don't think I've hit that point. Still mostly just shocked. Dean looked to his hands, then to me, speaking softly. I've had maybe 3 showers, but I can still see the blood on my hands even though it's not there. Benson's blood? Yeah, I didn't know what I was thinking, but just saying that much blood, I wasn't sure if he was able to be saved or not. So you tried giving him CPR. I tried shaking him awake gently, but it wasn't until I'd brought Sal back with me that it really sank in just how, He looked like he was going to be sick when he trailed off, but breathed in deep and seemed to push it down. What Jack did to him, it was messy. It wasn't for the clothes, you'd have been hard-pressed to know that it was Benson. And you're sure it was? I'm sure. Sal was sure, too. Now with a gun in his hand, it looked like, but it looked like Jack decided to go a little nuts after killing him. No way you'd need to cut him open like that otherwise. What the fuck? I found myself sitting down beside Dean, rocking gently back and forth. Just hearing that made me as queasy as Dean looked. But tomorrow we can get away. I just need to go through tonight without medication and we leave first thing. Hiya. So, we're just going to finish Path G tonight. First thing. Are you going to be alright with that? It'll be hard to get sleep, but if it means one night of bad sleep for us to go home, I'll put up with it. Thanks, Dean. Did you want to talk about anything? Such as Orlando, Tassin, maybe? I whined as he put an arm around me, squeezing me gently. Sorry, I didn't. No, it's okay. I just can't believe they're gone. It hurts that they're gone. And that we're leaving them behind tomorrow. It hurts that they're gone and that we're just leaving them behind for tomorrow. Leaving them behind tomorrow. We can come back for them still, right? But I want to take them with me. It feels wrong to just leave them here with them still in the woods. I know. Do you? I can't say I was all that close with Orlando, even after, well, getting chewed out by him. But Tyson seemed like someone I could get along with eventually. I wish I knew him better. He looked at me briefly before turning away again. If it's not too painful, do you mind telling me about them? What did you want to know? Orlando was kind. He was either almost always happy or unsettled by something Roswell had come up with. Fed up with something Haas had done, at least in the last year. The smile on my face wavered as I continued, preemptively wiping the tears away. Even with a family like his, even if I didn't really think about it, he was still a good person. They both were. I'm sorry, Dave. Could have said things were fine. I could have said any number of things to try and make Dean feel better, but I just ended up sitting there nodding slowly. Yeah. Is there anything I can say or do? Is there anything you want to tell me, or what's there to say? I don't know. It was only for a day, maybe less than a day, but Orlando and I, You loved him, and he loved me, and now he's started to cry, not bothering to hide it anymore. Dean pulled me tighter against him, and if anything, it just made me cry all the harder. Hey, it's alright. You'll be okay. It just hurts. It hurts so much. Did you want some coffee, more hugs? I don't really know how I can help. Don't know! Are you two okay? Sure don't look okay, Sal. I meant, it's a hard question to answer. I'm still processing everything. Everything's hitting Dave, so what about you two? I've had enough. I want to go home. Seconded. I can't smell anything other than blood, and there's nothing we can do about it. Even just standing outside makes coming back inside worse. Even if you're just staying in your room, being alone doesn't seem like a great option at the moment either. Tomorrow. We just have to get through tomorrow. Hold on. Hold on. Where's Roswell? Asleep. He almost collapsed earlier, and I walked him to his room. Barely closed the door before passing out, it sounded like. Did you hear him hit the floor or what? I wouldn't be surprised if he did pass out on the floor, but I have enough on my mind as it is. Way to look out for the guy, Sal. I didn't see you doing anything to help Hoss. I'm not a doctor, can't help what's happening to him. Sal nodded slowly and backed up to sit on the stairs. What do we do now? Anyone hungry? Not really. I shook my head and Sal followed suit. Thirsty? Again, everyone shook their heads. Maybe we should all just sleep, rest up for tomorrow. It's not even lunchtime! Sure, just waiting. We could go see what the rat is up to. What's he even doing, given what just happened? If you can even find him, then we search the house, maybe? An awful lot of house to search, too. More than that, if he doesn't want to be found, he can avoid us. He's small enough, but if he's already seen us look for him, he'll just choose to not be there. You can't be serious. I am. Thanatos can just choose to hide and we'll never find him. Well, there goes that idea. Did we want to play a game? Take our mind off things? No, I think I'm good. I'm with Dave. I don't even feel like watching anime. If we're heading home tomorrow, do we need supplies? What's the plan? I imagine once we get to the main road, we can hitchhike into a town and call for help. So traveling that is probably smart. My plan is once we're out of range of the signal jammer, it's time to call the police. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Hopefully it doesn't stretch too far. Once we're on the main road again, past where the road was blown up, we'll be outside its range. Yeah, I do want to take something with me as a keepsake, though. Something to remember Orlando and Tyson by, until we can come back for them. I'll be happy to carry something if that helps. That works. Thinking maybe a small backpack or something to help carry it. At the moment, it's just a shirt and their phones, plus some other bits, but I don't need all that much. Sure, I'll help too. Or at least there's something I can do to help. Say the word. Sure. At the moment, I've just put what I have in my bag, but we can decide before we head out. Then all we have left is to make sure Dean doesn't take medication. Get some rest for what will be a long walk tomorrow, and make sure Roswell can come with us. Sounds about right, yeah. Only thing we have to wait on is Roswell, then. If what Thanatos said was right, Roswell should be fine. Apparently, he didn't seem sure. More like not telling us the whole story. I don't get worried like now of all times, nor any of number of things he could be lying about. So Roswell will be fine? Guess we'll find out in the morning. If it's just a waiting game, I think I'm just going to make sure we have what supplies we might need ready. Rations for the road, maybe some crime equipment if I can find it. Russians might be going a bit far, but I'll help if you need it. I'm probably going to just check the greenhouse. Now I wouldn't know where else to look for tools. You're welcome to come with if you want. Wish I could help, but I don't remember seeing anything like climbing gear around here. If it exists, it wouldn't be anywhere we've been before. I think I'll leave the preparing to you and Sal. After earlier, I think I just want to lie down. So we split off, Dean and Sal heading back outside, Hoss towards the kitchen, and I wandered upstairs to rest. Tomorrow. All I needed to do was wait until tomorrow and I could get home. It all seemed too good to be true. The day passed with nothing happening. No visits from Jack. Russell seemed to be sleeping things off when I checked in on him. Found the other three just sitting downstairs waiting like I had been. Though after sitting in silence for a bit, once more we headed back upstairs. It was sometime later in the evening when I woke up. Not suddenly, but a dull throb in my chest. Orlando was gone and I'd opted to stay in my own rather than intrude on his room a second time. Everything in there smelled like him, and the wind was too fresh for me to want to be surrounded by constant reminders that he was now gone.
Hey!
So real quick, just virtual hugs for everyone. Just if you want a virtual hug, hang on. I'm turning on the webcam. Just letting you all know. Virtual hugs for everyone. Just virtual hugs for everyone. Just come on in. Just, virtual hugs. That's all I can do now. Huh? He said nothing else, instead turning on heel and walking out of the room. One last look over his shoulder that he wasn't going to wait for me to follow. And I was curious on where he wanted to take me. I followed. For whatever reason, I followed. He led the way down, not asking for a lift and not acknowledging as to why he'd sought me out. Not until we were downstairs. Where are we going?
Doesn't matter.
It's the middle of the night, so yes, I thought we were meant to be resting up for tomorrow.
This is important.
Okay, but what is more important?
Just keep following. We need to set something up.
You're still not telling me what this thing is, though. We just continued on despite me asking again, and he called back over on his shoulder as he continued to walk.
We're almost there. Just be patient.
Eventually, I just picked him up and sat him on my shoulder. If he wanted me to be patient, that was one thing, but him leading the way was taking forever. He guided me down the driveway, and I watched as he twitched slightly the further we got. The hedge maze was the edge of his working range. I wondered just how much further we were going.
Here.
Shakily, he pointed to a rock, and I put him down. Him dropping down into a sitting position immediately. We're a bit further from the house I thought we'd come.
We needed to...
Are you going to tell me for what now?
Yes.
He struggled to stand, but managed. The illusion of him being a rat faded from how his neck seemed to twitch. Robotic eyes glowing the way they did in the dark.
Are you ready for a story?
I thought we needed to set something up. If you just wanted to tell me a story, you could have done so inside.
No, not this one. Get comfortable.
Sitting down on the road, I was thankful that he'd kept pants on. At the night, I was starting to nip at me with the lack of a shirt.
Okay, the story I want to tell you
is...
It's...
If you're struggling, we can go back inside. It's fine.
It's not fine. Forget the story. I'm just going to tell like it is.
Tell what like it is?
The experiment. It's over.
It is? Wait, which experiment are we talking about?
The one my master set out to complete.
What I gave him should have been enough to clue him in that I wanted more information, but his attention seemed drawn back to the house. Well, now that it's done, now what?
Dave, you know what the completion of the experiment means? It means that I've won, that I do not have a purpose to fulfill from this point on.
Is that bad?
My master would say no. He would say that it was all worth it to ensure that you lived. That you alone survived above anyone else.
Me? Your master wanted to save me.
Yes, it was always you, Dave. The pin keeping this group together and alive.
I don't understand. What would have happened if
you died?
I nodded quickly and watched as he struggled to move, turning to look at me.
I'd ask if you really wanted to know, but you just nod and look at me funny. Of course you want to know.
He smirked, shaking his head.
You keep this group together more than you know. Before any of all of this, before your dad got involved with Oswald's little workaround, you were meant to die.
His attention went back to the house as he continued.
That set into motion a series of events that wound up with everyone you know and love dead too. Your father in the line of duty, your mother after she develops a broken heart following a messy divorce just before that.
My eyes went wide as he rattled this off, as if it meant nothing. Him shrugging as best he could with his body seemingly fighting him.
Your friends in accident after accident, wrong place at the wrong time or through other means.
He shrugged as if what he was saying held no weight.
Roswell succumbs to his illness, Orlando killed by his own father, Tyson in a car accident, Haas in a shooting, Dean in a workplace accident, and Sal, well, he suffers the most probably.
What happens to Sal?
Well, he outlives all of you on genetics alone. Call it a consequence of the medical trial or just his species. I'm not a biologist. Not that he makes it to old age anyway. Gets caught up with one of Memphis's goons and...
Shakily, a finger was drawn across his neck to finish his thought.
But we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Because we're escaping in the morning?
Listen to me, Dave. Do you understand the lengths I went through to secure your survival?
No.
Well, hopefully you do someday.
You're starting to freak me out. More than usual, I mean.
Don't fret, Dave. You're safe.
Yeah, like you're trying to be convincing of that right now.
I'm serious.
Great, but I'm getting cold, so can we go back inside now?
About that one last thing.
What's that? I stood and offered my hand out to him so he could climb up my arm. Instead, he just shook his head and lightly pushed my hand away.
Try not to remember how much this is going to hurt.
What? Things for a split second went painfully quiet. I don't understand what he was talking about. For the first time since meeting him, Thanatos wore a tired and sad smile. I was thrown forward from the force of the blast that came out of the nowhere. Pummeled into the rock Thanatos was standing on and watched as he limply fell forward, motionless. From where I was prone, I looked back up at the house and couldn't believe what I was seeing. A second blast followed quickly by another happening, all in the span of a couple of seconds. And I watched as the house disappeared before my eyes in a blaze of smoke and rubble. Thanatos? I reached out for him, eyes glued to the side of the house where every last one of my remaining friends had been sleeping. Thanatos, did you know that? He was limp in my hands, and I knew that he wasn't going to answer. I wasn't cold anymore, I wasn't tired anymore, mostly I was just in shock. Morning had broken by the time I'd made it to the road. Who knows how long I'd spent there sitting in the middle of the driveway. Cold had set back in, tiredness had set back in, and I stared down into the hole left in the road. Looking back up at the smoke still rising from what was left of the house, I could hear the faint sirens approaching from somewhere far off. Someone was coming. Someone was finally coming! I was taken away from the mountain in the back of an ambulance, along with a police escort. After they were sure I was physically fine, the police wanted answers, and I gave them to them, willingly. Told them about how the road blew up, I told them about what had happened with Dominic and Benson, told them about who was in the woods, and it was only then that the tone shifted. Even before they said anything that they weren't keen on helping. I knew that even though the experiment had been a success and that I'd survived, I'd lost. No bodies to recover, the house was just a smoldering crater. No one to blame, as there was no evidence to pin it on any one person. For a brief moment they considered me, but I had nothing to offer them, shy of what remained of Thanatos in my pocket. Hey, Thanatos? I had him tucked into my hoodie pocket, just as still as when I took him from the mountain. If you were watching right now, was it worth it? Was it worth killing every single one of my friends? Before us was Dad's grave, the rest of my friends without a marker to their name, all things considered. Services were held, at least for Haas and Dean, but nothing for Orlando or Sal. I had one for Tyson alone, with no one left to attend, and Roswell's was a strange one.
Oh, I didn't expect to see you here.
Oh, it's you.
Florencia, dear.
Right, Oswin's sister.
Are you alright?
I gave her a sideward glance. Something felt off about her ever since she approached me as Roswell's memorial. No. Did you want something?
I was just checking in. After all, I have my own people to visit here. But I suppose a graveyard is hardly the place to strike up a friendly conversation, is it?
Florencia, I want to know something.
Yes, dear?
Why were you at Roswell's memorial? None of the others, despite everyone else dying on that mountain, just Roswell's.
Well, you know how Oswin was. I feel it's only appropriate to attend when he couldn't.
I don't understand.
Oh, I'm sure you would have seen it. No doubt during your little trip, you would have seen my brother pay Roswell some level of attention, no?
Oswin,
Yes?
I only got to meet Oswin once, then he was...
Oh.
Yeah, it ruined Benson. That, along with Thanatos messing with him, is probably why.
Ah, I see.
What makes you say Oswin would have given Roswell attention?
It's no secret. My brother always wanted a son of his own. Having Roswell along for the trip was no doubt putting him at risk of being, well, I suppose surrogate son is about as apt as we're going to get.
For the first week, he just hid away from us, though.
Chances are he was just nervous.
Oh yeah, this path is fucking over.
I don't mean to be grim, Dave, but everyone did end up dying. Perhaps he just caught wind of that long before anyone else did. If he didn't, then I'm sure Thanatos would have said something.
Yeah, well... I pulled him from my pocket, still limp, and showed him to Florencia. He's dead too, or whatever robots have in his equivalent.
How did you...
He took me out of the house just before the bombs went off. Didn't say anything about saving anyone else or anything.
How strange.
Because...
And he didn't bother trying to save anyone else.
All I remember is he said something about an experiment and how I was the one needing to be saved and to have it succeed. That if I died, everyone else would end up dying.
He always said the strangest things. I remember being there when he first woke up in a frantic panic trying to explain who he was and that we had to listen.
You were there when it happened?
Not in the room, but just the next one over. He kept talking about a fire and that he'd seen other iterations of the universe, and it was just so much to take in.
You believed him then, from the moment he woke up?
Well, your options are to write him off as crazy or give him some credit. He was made to recall the histories of other cosmic cycles, so either someone had programmed in false records as a prank, or he was telling the truth.
And you just, just let him?
Let him what?
Make decisions and, I don't know. Florencia stepped forward and placed a hand carefully on my shoulder, if only briefly. When someone says that, though, those people you love are going to die, you listen, don't you? I am assuming you must have at some point. I trembled, thinking back to what happened with Tyson. What happened to Orlando? If only I knew that I had to be worried about a werewolf, things would have been so much simpler. Still, that's just life, isn't it? And death too, I suppose. That doesn't make it easier. It helps me cope with the loss of people I tried to save. Shy of my husband, I have no more family left now. She flashed her wedding ring whimsically as if we hadn't been talking about death moments before. Here, I think you should take Thanatos. He belongs to you anyway. Are you sure? I can't say he belonged to me, really, but he may as well have. Just tell me, do you know who his master is, or was even? Now that's a tough question. Because you don't want to tell me. More because the answer isn't satisfying, because the person I believe to be his master hasn't existed for a long, long time in a manner of speaking. She took Thanatos carefully from me and looked him over. Hang on, I'm just gonna scratch my arm. This reminds me of a story. No thanks. Oh, live a little, Dave. You owe it to those gods. Just do that. What's it about? It's an old fable called The Two Rats. Okay, what's the story? There were two rats, one old and one young. The older rat, upon finding a baited trap, goes to the younger rat and explains that there's a tasty morsel to have. But there's a trap. Obviously you wouldn't fall for that, right? Alas, with youth brings inexperience. Youth brings mistakes, and in this case, the young rat dies to the trap, baited by the older rat who knew better just for his own gain, as now the pieces of cheese were free to take with no danger. So what? Don't listen to old people? You could say that, but it's different. Don't follow advice blindly, Dave. Much like when Thanatos woke up, I listened to him but didn't blindly listen to him like everyone else might have. But you knew what he was planning. I had some inkling, but unlike you, I was not on that mountain. Any chance I had to alter things left the moment I departed, long before any of you arrived. Oh. But imagine if you'd shown up a bit sooner, She handed Thanatos back to me, flashing a smile. Maybe I would have been on the mountain. Maybe everything that happened would have been very different. I shook my head with a sigh, stuffing Thanatos back into my pocket. I guess it doesn't matter now. What was the password to open the vault anyway? You have to know it, right? Why do you want to know? Planning on trying to remember for the next go-around? It's not like it's useful to you anyone anymore. Not useful to anyone currently. Still, I do know the password, though telling you isn't going to be any good even if you did remember. Because when I hid those medals and entrusted the rest to Benson to hide, I also had Thanatos keep watch and remember when each of them were found. Additionally, to not open unless the password is given and every last medal has been uncovered. So we were never going to win that game, were we? That scavenger hunt was just a distraction, unfair. I can say for a fact that why I did what I did was completely unrelated to you or any of your friends, but it has its uses. Such as... Well, I have my own experiment to run, perhaps with a Dave and another iteration of the universe we've yet to get to. Perhaps with someone else, but it's not for us to know. So what happens now? You're expecting something to happen? There has to be something, right? This can't just... I mean... I shook my head, looking down at my dad's grave again. No, I guess there's nothing left, is there? If it makes you feel better, I could also tell you the password to open the vault. Though, as I said, even with the password, Thanatos wouldn't have opened it unless he's seen you collect all the medals across his lifeline. Don't worry about it. I turned away from her then, deciding not to look back. Wasn't anything left for me on that mountain, or from that family. I had my life, but ultimately I questioned what good it was when everyone else in my life had died shy of my own mother. As time went on, I found it hard to keep any meaningful relationships. Every interaction I had came with the feeling that if they lingered near me, they'd end up dead. Maybe it was Thanatos influencing them, even after he was long gone. His last few words to me still lingering in the back of my mind. If I died, my friends all would have anyway. The less friends I have, the less people at risk, or so I grew to think. My life stagnated from there on out. I wondered if in the end it would have been no different to me dying on the mountain after all. Resonate? Yes. Alrighty. In a flash, I felt something streak across the back of my mind. My eyes dipped down to Thanatos, looking up at me expectantly. Made a show of tapping his wrist, and I realized what I was meant to be doing. The password. Right. We're going to leave off here tonight. Fuck. Just fuck. Over an hour and a half. Still not the longest stream we've ever done. Fucking Soul Creek. Oh, he resonated. But no. I have a little plan in motion because kind of spoiled myself. I don't know all the details, but I spoiled myself a little bit. And here's the order that we're going to do the routes. Here's the order that I'm wanting to do them anyways. So we're doing Orlando, then Roswell, Dean, Sal, Haas, Tyson. I'm wanting to end with Tyson. I am wanting to end with Tyson. That's sort of what I'm wanting to do. Why Roswell? Because I want to learn more about Roswell. Anyways, stay safe, have a good night. Go ahead and mentally prepare for Path B. I don't know what's going to happen. And I'll see you all tomorrow.